I was such a daddy's girl growing up, only child. I always had a very idyllic view of my father and my parents' relationship. It was like gifts, 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 gifts. If something went wrong, buy a gift. So I was like, oh, I'm spoiled. I'm a princess. Nothing's wrong in my life. La, 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 la. But then things started not making sense. Things didn't add up. And around the age of 8, I was like, this is weird. Like, why are we not talking to my family? Why are we not really speaking to my relatives? Why don't I see my dad's side anymore? Oh, well, we just don't see them anymore. Oh, well, we'll tell you when you're older. And I was like, okay, well, that's weird. And so suddenly I'm 12 and we still don't see them. And we have a really rough relationship with my mom's side of the family now too. And we don't really speak to them either. My dad stopped showing up to family events. And it's always excuses. Always, sorry, I can't work. Sorry, I'm with the boys, which we'll get to. Because they're not who you think they are. But then suddenly when I turned 15, everything came out of the woodwork. My dad's health conditions absolutely plummeted. He was a chronic smoker, smoke a pack a day, the whole bit. And so it all kind of came to a crashing halt when he caught his finger in his car window and broke his pinky. But because he was a diabetic, out of control diabetes, it never healed. Turned gangrene. They were going to have to amputate it until he went and he had a stroke. And so they're like, oh my gosh, we have to put a stent in your heart. Oh, no. Of course, that didn't go well. 3 days later, he crashes again, has another stroke, and becomes comatose for the next 2.5 weeks prior to kidney failure and death. Fine, okay. The second stroke that happened was kind of like the beginning of the end of everything, is when things started really coming out about everything that happened, and we learned about the lies, we learned about the fake people, the fake names, everything that happened. And so for the next 2.5 weeks, it was like every single day we were digging through feet and feet of buried bullshit.
Right.
So that hospital day, we were talking about this earlier, when we were waiting in the trauma unit and my dad's in emerge, they're pumping him, trying to keep him alive. My dad and I are there with his friend. For the sake of privacy, we'll call him Drew. And so we're hanging out with Drew. We know Drew as band guy, music. My dad was really into supporting this band in Barrie at the time. And that was a bunch of bullshit too. All the money that he donated to them, he stole from people, lied to them about getting other things so they give him tens of thousands of dollars. And then he would donate it to this band, but all under a guise of something else. And so anyways, we're hanging out with Drew. Drew's worried about him. We had called him when we took my dad into the ER. In walks this woman. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what the hell are you doing here, Beth? And so Beth comes in and she's like, well, yeah, of course I'm here for your dad. Why wouldn't I be? And I'm like, well, it's not like you're close with him. Your daughter and I have the same voice teacher, but it's not like we're close. And she goes, what do you mean? I've been sleeping with your dad for the past 8 years. And she looks me dead in the eyes when she says this. And I had never believed in slow motion stopping like it happens in movies. My life came to a crashing halt in that moment. I was everything I had ever known about my parents' idyllic marriage and how they were so passionate for one another, and the 30 years of marriage that they had just celebrated together just caught fire. And I was like, what? And I had never seen my mother so enraged. And she walked over and she looks at Beth and goes, what the fuck did you just say to my daughter? And I'm like, I'm gonna take a break. And so I walked out of the hospital and I just stood outside and I cried. I sobbed and I was like, what the hell is going on? And so after contemplating the now meaninglessness of my life, I walk back into the waiting room outside the trauma unit, and I felt like I was in a movie, standing there with these people that I now have no idea who they really are and the meaning of everything. And the doctor comes out and they're like, we're gonna take your dad to South Lake, to Newmarket. He needs significant work on his heart. They have a much better cardiac unit there. We're going to ship him off. So come in and say your goodbyes. This might be the last time he's conscious. Conscious is a very vague term for what he was. He was like maybe aware of anything. His eyes weren't even open when we went in. And my mom's like, regardless of anything we just heard, you need to tell your father that you love him. And so I remember walking through that unit, seeing him pushing out those words, not knowing what they meant. And Beth goes and says whatever the hell she had to say. And we leave that unit, and I just remember my mom going, well, now isn't that very French of us? The wife, the daughter, and the mistress. Craziness. So we started figuring out everything from that point. We're like, okay, this all has to be a lie. And everyone may be like, oh, wow, Beth, like affair of 8 years, craziness. That's not even the tip of the iceberg as to what we found out. So up until this point, we had been under the impression that my dad was weapons specialist, bodyguard, doing a lot of international security work from home. But he was away very frequently, rarely came home at night. And this all transpires from this lie that had been built up over 17 years. So you have to understand how insidious this is. It started 2 years before I was conceived, with my dad's security work at the time. And we'll eventually get back to the present moment that I'm speaking of. So my parents, they lived in Burlington, and this was before I was conceived. My dad had a security business doing consulting work for car accidents. This was before no-fault insurance came into place. No-fault insurance came in, wiped his business right out, because now people couldn't make claims. Like, you hit me, now I can sue you. People couldn't sue people anymore. So suddenly his business was out of work, and this multi-million-dollar business he had built up came crashing down, went bankrupt within the year. So my parents had to move out of Burlington. And they moved back home to my father's childhood home. And he had had a very complex relationship with his parents and with his siblings. So you'll see that a lot of this is an accumulation of the horrid events of what can happen when a child is abused in their home. And this is honestly just a PSA to children's mental health and sexual abuse. Like, this is what can happen if you do not encourage people, especially men when they've gone through sexual abuse at a young age, to go and get help. And so he had a very rough childhood in association with his siblings, with his mom, all that stuff. So coming back home into that house was really not the best thing that could have happened. And my mom told me this when I called her, and I told her I was doing this podcast, and she goes, okay, well, this is what happened. Your father looked at me in the eyes and went, all right, so I'm either going to go kill myself, or I have to go and be a bodyguard and protect people from getting killed, because he's like, I can't do this anymore. I have to figure out something to do with my life, and I have so much anger within me. And my mom was like, well, she's like, I'm not going to go have you kill yourself, so you better figure something out. And so this is when my dad became a bodyguard and started this whole line of very morally gray, morally ambiguous work, going to South America, going to Europe, doing all of this bodyguard work that may or may not have been legal. We're really not sure about this, but this transpired for the next about 7 years until I was 5 years old. My parents moved to Barrie when I was 1. And so he had done bodyguarding work for many years and became connected with this guy named C, who had supposedly left my dad a lot of money. And this is where this money that he had promised people kind of came from. Along the way, he met this guy named Mark. Now, Mark, we don't know if Mark ever existed to this day. We do not know if Mark ever existed. We're assuming he never did. But Mark became my father's alter ego that he used to get away with a lot of shit. And so they were supposed to have become brothers, like brothers in arms in the most religious way you can imagine it. And Mark was supposed to have these 2 sons, Adam and Justin. And so when my father and Mark became really close, basically Mark and my dad started this pseudo cult. He had told people about it so much at the end that he was going to be this patriarch that was going to save the world from the rise of Satan. Yeah, I can see you're like, this is crazy. This is like insane. He was, love him. Yeah, but crazy. This, like, of course, very slowly transpired. And a lot of this came from my dad's just like deep wish to be loved and to be seen, and like not really know how to create relationships with people other than become a pathological liar, I suppose, and create all of these multiple personalities. And so my dad and Mark in quotation marks, became very close. He developed a relationship with Mark's sons, Adam and Justin, because Mark was a widower. His wife died in a car crash on the 401 in her red Corvette. Ooh, yeah, because that happened, sure. But it's crazy because my mom would send Adam and Justin Christmas presents. She would mail them to an address, like penthouse number 2 and wherever.
So
like,
do you know where that is?
No, we have no idea. And apparently the boys went to Upper Canada College.
Wow.
Like my dad created such a real life for them. And it came to the point where as they got older, Justin got engaged. And my dad was like, oh, Justin wants to buy his fiance lingerie. Could you go pick some up? Could you go do that? And so, yeah. My mom would be like, yeah, sure, of course. Like, I'll do that, whatever, because, he's too busy. And so my dad would give her the sizes and she'd pop her little booty over to La Senza. And now who do you think that lingerie went to?
The mistress.
Yeah, exactly. Oh. And so this is all the stuff that we started putting together. But when I was little in grade 1, the start of this whole religious fantasy happened when my dad, it was pancreatitis we found out from the family doctor. But what we thought at the time was, we thought it was stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And so anyone who is aware of cancers and the danger factors to them understands that pancreatic cancer is not exactly something you bounce back from, let alone stage 4. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer is a death sentence. Yeah. And we all know that. My dad, however, instead of seeing an oncologist, he sees Simon, who is this spiritual healer, who is like his kind of spiritual advisor and his essential shaman in this religious cult that my dad has in his head called the Racine, okay? And my dad had crosses made up for him, my mom and I, with the Racine symbol, and he had it tattooed on his body. It is on his gravestone.
So he made this logo?
This whole thing, this logo. And it's like a vaguely Celtic cross. Very pretty, very nice. Mantras, submit only unto God. Wow. Like, yeah, crazy. He had that tattooed on his body.
Your mom thought that he was part of this cult?
It's this whole thing. And it's like, which is crazy, because if you were to meet my mom, you're like, let's be real, like, you're a logical person, but when it starts so slowly and it's just like, Mark's a work colleague, and then 6 months later it's like, yeah, going over to Mark's gonna meet his sons, and suddenly like a couple years later, these things start to come together, and Mark has this like religious group, and he knows these people, and he knows Simon, and he knows Simon's wife Sabrina, and then suddenly when I'm born, they have a daughter named Emmanuel. And Emmanuel is supposed to be my spiritual advisor when I grow up to eventually take over the Racine and become like the person to lift up this world from the darkness of Satan after my dad has killed him and sacrificed himself for the better of the world.
He thought he was going to kill himself?
He thought he was going to, so he had to kill 7 people, representative of the 7 deadly sins, before he could face Satan. A lot of this is like spurned from media. We can kind of gather that.
Right.
Like it was like each obsession that I had as a child was like a new facet to this lie. Wow. So it's like when I was going through my Mortal Instruments Shadowhunters phase, suddenly there was this whole emphasis on like my dad learning to fight demons like they did because I wanted to do that and all of this stuff. So it's like, it's horrible to say, but it's like he built this world of lies to make me happy.
Wow.
Which is like crazy. Yeah.
So you really thought he was going to have to kill 7 people?
Yeah, I genuinely, yeah. But so the thing is that he wouldn't like fly to places and do this. Every single night he would go to Mark's house, which was like a 20-minute drive from ours, and we were never allowed to go there. Ever. Right. We were strictly forbidden. But my dad would like tell us where it is, so my mom and I would like go get ice cream and go drive by this gated mansion, and we'd be like, I wonder what daddy's doing there. Like, what's happening? What's going on?
That's crazy.
Crazy.
But was it a random house?
It was a random freaking house.
Oh my God.
But sometimes we would see for sale signs and be like, oh, like, daddy's gonna buy that house, blah, 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 blah. No, bitch, you thought? Like,
Wow.
no. What would happen is, it's not like he'd buy plane tickets for this stuff. He would go into essentially, how he described it was prepping for God knows what. But he would go into this deep meditative state where, I guess on a spiritual plane, he would fight these people and descend into the depths of hell to prepare to fight Satan. So yeah, there was all this spiritual prep, and Simon would be there. And so when we'd call my dad at night and be like, hey daddy, just wanted to say goodnight, he wouldn't answer. He'd call back at 11:30 at night, and he'd be like, oh, sorry, I was in prep. Yeah, right. No, you were with Beth. Sure. He was with the mistress. Yeah. And so that happened. But there would be times he'd be like, oh, I'm out with the boys with Mark, Adam, and Justin. And he'd talk about Manny. And then there were these other two people. There was a boy named Sasha, who was supposed to be my soulmate that his other two friends, as part of the Racine, had for me. So I was in this arranged marriage at the age of 11.
Whoa.
Yeah, Sasha never existed. I mean, if you're out there, Sasha, let me know, give me a call. But no.
So and were you I have to marry this random
Yeah, I have to marry this guy, but he's don't worry, he's this amazing guy who's gonna protect you your entire life. And then he even went so far as to plan a pregnancy that was happening with these parents, with Sasha's parents, and asked my mom to pick out the baby names.
Whoa.
So my parents named this random imaginary child Valentina Noel, which is in hindsight a really questionable name.
I mean, that is very
Valentina Noel. All of this happened, and I believe this for years. I mean, let's be real. What little girl doesn't want to be a magical princess with superpowers who gets to have a coming out gala when she turns 16 in Germany? What?
That's what he said you would have?
Yes. He said it'd be my coming of age party, and it'd be a gala ball in Germany when I turned 16. It never happened. Still unfortunate. Really sad about that to this day.
So what did he say? You turned 16 and then...
He was dead. He died at 15 when I was 15. No. So he had a year to go. He was I gotta get out of here. No, the lies were just catching up, and they kept piling on top of one another. And eventually he started borrowing money from people that were too close. People that were too close to the circle. My grandparents, farmers that they knew. And so it all just started collapsing. I think it really got to him with Beth and Beth's daughter coming to sing at the same teacher as me. He started pulling too close to home, because he wanted to keep my mom and I in this little vacuum space that was untouched. And you can see in a lot of people that have mental health issues, especially when it comes to personality disorders, because he would go by Mark, he would go by Simon. I was who the hell is Simon? Tell me. We would read these letters, and we'd read his text messages, and we were who the hell is this? It's just crazy. And you can tell people that have mental health issues, especially personality disorders, they like to isolate people in order to keep them in control. And he wanted to always be the financially responsible person, but he never was. My mom was the person that paid the bills and everything. And so it reached the point that when my dad was comatose, and we finally popped the trunk of his car that was supposed to be paid off, it was not, unfortunately. We could have had a nice $250,000 Beamer, but instead my dad had paid it off with who knows what money. We were not an affluent family by any means. We had to end up selling the car, and we found 10 months worth of unpaid mortgage receipts. And so at the end of this, we were almost evicted from our house.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's crazy, everything that happened and the cost of it all coming into this. And I've skipped over crazy stuff, when my dad was going through pancreatic cancer. This treatment that Simon was supposed to be giving him was he was supposed to be laying gaboon vipers across his chest that was supposed to be sucking the cancer out of him.
So snakes.
Snakes. And then throwing them into Lake Simcoe. So,
that's crazy.
So sometimes when I'm home, I'll walk by the lake, and I'm waiting to see these gaboon vipers, these corpses pop up out of the water. C was supposed to live in this mansion on Bridle Path in Toronto.
Cool.
But the crazy part about C is that C may actually have been real, because when I was little but old enough to remember, my dad pulled me out of school one day, and we came to Toronto, and we went on this beautiful walk. It's one of my favorite memories I ever had with my dad.
Oh, that's sweet.
So we did have nice times together generally. He was super supportive, always brought me flowers to my performances, yada, yada, yada. It was a good dad in some respects, just like absolutely batshit. But we pulled up to this gated house, this gated mansion. I was a little too young to remember what it looks like, but I remember him buzzing the intercom and him going, "Hey, it's so-and-so, and we're here to see C." And the butler goes, "I'm sorry to tell you, C is very unwell, and he will not be taking any visitors today." And 2 days later, C passed away. And so I remember this memory so vividly. So there are all of these things that made you want to believe it.
Right. Like he might have been real.
Yeah, and my mom went to the Christmas parties that Mark and my dad's boss threw.
Oh.
But Mark was never there. Mark was busy with the boys. And so there are all of these like weird connections that were like, well, all of this happened, so maybe this is happening. I mean, the Racine stuff, bit of a crazy stretch, but like no one wants to believe their husband has 5 other personalities that he's throwing out the window at people. No daughter doesn't want to believe that she can have a pony, that she can be a princess, that she can take on the world, and she has this amazing man ready to meet her whenever she's ready, and so she doesn't have to go through these years of heartbreak. You know, no lonely kid who's an only child struggling to make friends doesn't want to believe that there's some girl out there waiting to be her sister. You know?
That's true.
And so he really fed off of all of these insecurities in our lives and all of these like empty spaces that he didn't know how to fill. And so later that day, we drove to South Lake, and my mom banned Beth from coming in. It was a closed trauma unit that my dad was in, and we were the talk of the town in the nurses' station. Talk of the town. They all knew. They were like, "Oh, it's the family with the mistress, but the mistress is banned." Oh my goodness! And then the mistress showed up, and she's buzzing the intercom. They're like, "Sorry, we can't let you in." And my mom's standing on the other side of the door, being like, "Well, suck it, bitch." Like, sorry.
Yeah, it is kind of weird how the mistress thought that she could just show
She could
up.
just waltz in. Well, they were engaged. Sorry, forgot to throw that part in. She flashes this engagement ring, and my dad had proposed to her.
No.
Mm-hmm. And she was like, "I was wondering why there were never any divorce papers that he could show me." Because my parents never got divorced. My mom never signed shit. But all of these people that my dad was meeting he had told them that my parents were divorced. And so these family friends that we had made would say to my mom, "It's just amazing how you guys can co-parent so well." And my mom would be like, "Well, yeah, like, of course we can co-parent so well." Not cluing in. We went to Newmarket, and it was a lot of back and forth to there until about a week later, he was sent back to RVH in Barrie, and they put him in the terminal care unit just because they were like, this isn't gonna last very long. Beth was banned from there too, and so I didn't see her again until the funeral. He died on September 2nd. Yeah.
So your dad would scam people out of money?
People, essentially. He would be like, "Oh, I'll help you sell this house if you give me this money for this, and then I'll reimburse you that much." That never happened. So my grandparents ended up losing their house. They lost a lot of their belongings. Yeah, and so that led to my grandparents actually living with my mom and I after the fact. Wow. So nice to be able to get close to them, but it was hard. I have a lot of respect for my grandparents coming in and being as kind and understanding to my mom and I as they were, because no one else believed us that we didn't know all of this was coming down the pipeline. We didn't know all the money was being stolen. We didn't know all of the stuff because my dad did still have a job doing work with CSIS. So it's Canadian security, international stuff. Just doing a lot of private consulting, security work. So he would still have pay stubs that would come in from things. But of course, it was nowhere near the money that he would have to be doing all this stuff with other people. But we weren't aware of that. And my dad strictly told people not to talk to my mom and I about it. And so that's what led to a lot of the isolation from our relatives. And so my mom's brothers and sisters didn't come to the funeral because they were mad about their inheritance. I want this to not define me, because a lot of people will let this crash and burn their lives, you know? But my mom looked at me, she was like, you have a choice. You can let this ruin everything that you've worked for, or you can move forward in spite of everything. Despite all of the wreckage, that you have absolutely every right to let this change the course of your life, or you can know who you are at the end of the day and what you want and fight for it. And so that's what I did. I'm not gonna become the cover story for the girl whose dad dies and money's tight and shit's going sideways, and let that derail my life and my dreams and everything that I've worked for. This summer.
Oh, this summer, wow.
This summer, actually, I just got tired of being angry. I was angry for a long time. I was upset. I was pissed. I was like, how dare you? How dare you not know what you have at home? How dare you forsake all of these things? But I'm never gonna get those answers. And what is the point in me carrying this horrible burden the rest of my life of this anger for someone who is never going to be able to give me answers? I'm never gonna get answers. And I eventually made peace with that. And it wasn't a matter of me sitting down and meditating with it for hours. It was a matter of giving it time, and allowing myself to feel through the grief. Like 2 days ago, I was sad, I was crying, I was upset. Because there are times where I'm like, I just want my dad, There are times where it's like, I just want a hug. I just want to talk to him on the phone,
Right.
But then there are other times when I'm like, really, you idiot? You had to go and do this? Holy Lord. But this summer, I decided to finally lay it to rest. I'm moving on to a different chapter in my life. I used to think that people saying time heals all wounds is such bullshit. I was like, I used to say closure is only for caskets. You don't actually get closure. That's bullshit. That's not a real thing. You don't get closure, but the wound heals. It scabs at the very least. Don't pick at it.
Right.
But it'll always be there. There'll always be scars. But you let them heal over, and you choose not to pick at them. You don't let them fester. You take care of them. You clean the wound. You work through it.